Assalamu alaikum. And welcome, friends and family, once again to the New World Education Podcast. I know it's been a while, but we're back and we have a lot that we want to share with you today. And so let's go ahead and get this sound together. First of all, I don't know if you all can tell, but I do seem to be breaking up a little bit. That's part of what we want to share with you today. Why am I breaking up like that? Well, let me just get the sound right. Inshallah, when it's replayed back, we won't have such a choppy video. But nonetheless, we'll get into that in just a bit. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Sister Deborah Muhammad. I am a co-host of the New World Education Podcast, as well as the director of the Supreme Muslim Educational Center. And of course, we just had coming on camera another co-host, Sister Deborah Muhammad. She is our sound engineer and as well as co-host. And we will have joining us shortly Sister Gabrielle Muhammad, and she also is a co-host, and she is she's coming in just a few minutes. So while we're getting everything set up, while we're waiting on Sister Gabrielle to join us, we want you all, of course, to share this podcast with other people. Hopefully, the sound is coming through okay. We would like, how's the sound coming through, Sister Deborah? Because I see that I'm moving very slowly, at least on my video. But it's okay, yes, long as you can hear me.
Yes, it sounds fine.
Sounds fine, but looks funny. Okay. It's okay. We'll be all right. And if I have to go off video, I'll go off video, but I'll explain to you all why we're having this issue. But nonetheless, please share this video, this live stream on your social media platforms. And of course, we're live. So if you have any comments or questions, we're asking you to put it into the chat box. And we would love to have you all dialogue with us. We have I think it's going to be a very riveting conversation today. And so we would like for you all to join in with us. Of course, we would like for you all to subscribe if you all are not subscribed members of the Supreme Muslim Educational Center YouTube channel. And of course, we would like for you to like the video. Wow, we have so much to share with you all. I am so excited, super excited, as we say. And of course, we would like for you to hit that notification bell for all the upcoming videos that we have coming down the line. Well, today we're going to discuss, this is episode 26. We're going to discuss the topic of government, but not just government, but an educated citizenry keeps tyranny at bay. So we're going to have a very interesting conversation as it relates to this in this interesting world that we are living in right now. So this podcast, of course, is brought to you by the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center. And the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center is educating at the speed of thought. And the New World Education Podcast is dedicated to helping to bring in the New World Education. Sister Deborah, how are you? Long time no see.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm doing well by a lot of grace and permission. I'm making it.
Praise be to Allah. Well, it's so good to see your smiling face. So good to see you. And of course,
I'm saying these days, it's good to be seen.
Yes, it is in these days. And I know Sister Gabrielle, she'll be joining us shortly. So, well, let's talk about some of the things that have been going on, why we have been away for 3 months. Very good things that have been happening in the midst of this ever-changing and peculiar world we're living in. But for the last 3 months, I have moved. My husband and I, Carrie, we purchased a home in the country. That's why my technology isn't where it should be. However, we're working on trying to improve that. We really didn't want to start the podcast until that was solved, but hopefully it'll be solved real soon. But the work must go on. So please forgive us if we're, glitchy, but, just really listen to what we are trying to share with you today. And wow, another big thing, Sister Demoiselle, while we were away for 3 months, we reached over 1,000 subscribers. I wish that we had a hand clap, woo woo, Allahu Akbar soundtrack that we could play in the background, because that's special. Because it's so special. Yes, because we're such a niche community. And so for us to reach over 1,000 subscribers is phenomenal. And then it seems like once we hit the 1,000, we just start getting more and more. And it's just like every day we're just growing and growing. All praise is due to Allah, which I guess brings us to some of what has been going on in this world that we live in. So let's start with the first thing. The first thing is that while we were away, we got a strike on our channel. And that strike was a violation of the YouTube policy that deals with medical misinformation, right? So YouTube decided to take down one of our video clips that we had of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And interestingly enough, I think it was the day after we hit 1,000 subscribers. And it said that we had it wasn't a strike, but they took it down and they gave us an opportunity to appeal them taking the video down. Now, this has to do with what we're going to talk about. And it has to do with current events and, just this world that we're living in as it relates to government and freedoms and whatnot. So, let's go ahead and look at it. I actually wanted to share with you all the actual strike or the notification that I received. So I'm going to look for it on my screen because I just want to share this with our audience because, even though this is a privately owned platform, we still have rights and we have to stand on our rights. Now, of course, this is, like I said, it's somebody else's platform, but knowledge and the proper use of knowledge is, in fact, power. And so if you know how to defend yourself, then, it really gives you power. And so you can, in many cases, you can only defend yourself, not physically, but mentally, is by having knowledge, is by, being educated. And so this is what I did. I'm looking for it right now. And so when they sent it, I was conflicted. I just have to be honest with you. I was conflicted about how do I approach this. My first thought, Sister Demoiselle, was just simply to forget about it. I was like, oh, whatever. It's just one video. It's not going to stop anything. And then as I mulled over it for a while, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Should I just let this go or should I say something? So one day I'm sitting at my desk, right? And I said, let me listen to this video, because they said they gave me 7 days to appeal them taking the video down. And so I'm sitting at my desk and I'm listening to it. I said, let me listen to this. So I did. And when I heard the video, there was not one thing that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in that video that could be considered medical misinformation. And that is the reason why they said that they pulled it down for medical misinformation. And so what happened, and as I'm looking for it, because unfortunately I closed the tab before we got on, but I'm going to look for it, but I'm just going to keep going on with what I have to say while I'm looking for it. But so I decided that I was going to appeal. You know, we wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can begin to start monetizing the channel, not for personal gain, but to be able to further this cause that we have in helping the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in, you know, bringing in this new educational paradigm. And let's just, you know, be honest. Freedom is not free. And so it takes money in order to be able to fund the revolution. And so we were looking at monetizing the channel. And so literally they sent this a day after we decided to do this. Now, it seems like I can't find it. So we're just gonna 86 this for right now so I can focus on what I'm trying to say. But nonetheless, when I really thought about the courageousness of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the midst of all that is going on as it relates to the agenda that is being pushed regarding these vaccines, regarding this plan to cull the population of the planet, I thought to myself that I must at least appeal this, because this man is standing up, giving his very life for a cause that is bigger than him, that is bigger than us. And so the least I can do is write an appeal, you know, so that's what I did. And so in writing the appeal, I started off with that the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, it states that, and I'm going to read it, that Congress shall make no laws respecting the establishment of religion or the prohibition of free exercise thereof, or bridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Now, that particular amendment, Assalamu alaikum, Sister Gadri, L, so good to see you. So anyway, that particular amendment of the Constitution really touches on everything that we're dealing with. One, religion. And the whole concept of that we have the religious freedom to not take the vaccine, if that's a part of our religious belief. The next one is, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Next, we have the abridging of the freedom of speech. As I said, these platforms belong to somebody. They're private entities, and they have the right to make policies that govern their particular platform. But the whole concept is that they're trying to stop people from freely speaking about something that is so important as our own persons, about what we choose to put in or not to put in our persons. So freedom of speech. And then, of course, freedom of the press. You know, this could be considered press when you're having a podcast. So being able to speak freely, and then of course, the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. So that's why I had to go ahead and do what I did in terms of making this grievance. So you have to know, you have to have knowledge, you have to be educated, so that way you can make sure that you can, put forth your grievance. And if you don't know the truth, how can you defend the truth? If you don't have a knowledge of the thing, there's no way that you can even defend yourself. So I put that in the beginning of the grievance. And then I went on to say that the Nation of Islam has had a policy of no vaccines or not taking vaccines. And it has been a policy that has been in place since the 1930s. So us not taking vaccines has nothing to do with the C virus. That's what I'll say. So it has nothing to do with that. And so I said that, and furthermore, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did not say anything in the speech that could indicate in any way medical misinformation. Just didn't do it. And so therefore, as a religious right, he has the right to express his religious belief. And so I sent it in, and within 24 hours, I got an answer. And so what they said that they were still going to take the video down because under their policy, even though he did not give any medical advice, they said that he was giving, that the video was a violation of their medical misinformation policy. And we know that they really just were going at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in this case because he said nothing. He said, we are not going to take the vaccine. And then he said that if you force us to take it, it will be a declaration of war on us. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so precise with his language. When I went back and listened at it, I was just floored. But what I would like to say is that they went on to say, whoever responded, is that they're not going to put a strike on the account because upon further review, quote unquote, that the video was not as bad as they had initially thought. So Sister Gabrielle was telling me that they have bots or computers that search the internet for certain catchphrases, certain words, and they will, these computers, algorithms will, make a notation or will hit a strike on certain content that may mention, vaccines or this virus. And so anyway, so doing that, they still took the video down, but we got to fight. That's my point. We got to fight. And if you don't know, you can't fight without knowledge. So with that being said, I want to ask you, Sister Gabrielle, are you ready? How are you feeling? I see you look like you're a little warm today.
Well, how can I put it? I would like to believe that I used to believe that I was a strong Muslim, but I can understand the whole pandemic and the lockdown things, but right now, just full disclosure, my air conditioning is broken, and so I do not have any air conditioning, and so Louisiana in August with no air conditioning is trying my faith right now.
What was that meme about Louisiana and the sun?
Yes. So you have, in the regular system, you would have the sun here, then you have the other planets, and then you have the Earth. But what you have is you have the Earth, then you have Louisiana in between the sun and the Earth, and then Louisiana being closer to the sun than the rest of the Earth. And metaphorically,
Yes.
that definitely feels like it's true right now. So if I please bear with my facial expressions or my palpable uncomfortability that you might see. But I'm striving to be on this podcast today and keep a good attitude. But like I said, my faith is really being tested. Talk about those 3 years of darkness, if it includes no air conditioning. Who knows? I might not be on the other side with you. So.
Yes, understood.
But what was the question? Then now that I said, okay,
how were you doing? How were you doing? I think we know. Hot.
Just gonna hit you with all praises due to Allah and keep you moving.
Praise
I'm
be to
trying
Allah.
not to get out of my good graces. You remember when Job, he went through all those trials and to see if he would curse God. He probably would have cursed God if he lived in Louisiana with no air conditioning.
I think he did live probably in the desert, right? I think he lived over there in the Middle East.
On Louisiana, I'm telling you.
You're right.
Louisiana is a different type of heat that will break you.
It is. Okay, well, with that being the case, hopefully you can hang on till the end of the podcast, but let's go ahead and jump on into it. Now, I want us to take a look at this whole concept of government, not just government. We're gonna delve into a little bit of the United States government, but then I want to juxtapose with the United States government and the Constitution of that governs this country with the Constitution, the provisional Constitution of the Muhammad Mosque, and also look at some of the elements inside of our Constitution as well. But let's go ahead and look at it. Now, I did read this First Amendment. And so right now, looking at the First Amendment, Sister Gabrielle, you're in law school, so I most definitely want you to weigh in on this. Okay, I know it's a trial right now, but fire does purify if that helps. Fire purifies. You all can come off mute. You understand what you call it, so we can have our little conversation back and forth. Because see, what we don't want to be governed by tyrants or despots, but we have to understand what we're dealing with. So the Constitution says that Congress shall make no laws respecting the establishment of religion or the prohibition of the free exercise thereof. So nobody can stop us from, or stop any person from exercising their religious freedoms, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of people, peaceably to assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. So that is the First Amendment to the Constitution. So now I want to deal with Constitution. What is a Constitution? We have one. Nation of Islam has a provisional constitution. What is it? And it is the basic principles and laws of a nation, a state, or a social group that determine the powers and duties of the government and guarantee certain rights to the people in it. Also, it is a written instrument embodying the rules of a political or a social organization. Now, interestingly enough, that, and I'm going to talk about the Constitution was actually signed. No, let's go ahead and have a quick quiz. You all can jump in. or if somebody's on the chat wants to jump in, when was the Constitution of the United States of America, without going to Google, okay? Even though I did find it on Google, but nonetheless, because I was wrong. I thought that it was another date. So when was the Constitution of the United States of America signed? Sister Gabrielle, law student. Now this must be the foundation of what you are studying.
I hate to burst that bubble, but no. One thing they say when you get to law school is they make a lot of assumptions that you already learned this. And I heard them say that a lot of times when they would do like the basic civics review, like you already learned this in high school. And, you know, I went to Mojave University of Islam, so that wasn't what we had priority on. And so as an adult, I'm learning a lot about American history and really true American history. I'm glad that I learned it as an adult because I can see what it is. But the specifics of when certain documents were ratified, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's some point after 1776.
And why do you say that?
Because that's the year America signed the Declaration of Independence and became an independent country.
Very good. Sister Demoiselle?
Well, I did not go to Muhammad University. I went to public school. And so, therefore, that's all I'm going to say about that.
You really don't know the answer.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. And I went all the way through college. I thought I knew a couple of things. This is what I'm saying.
So the point you're making is that as people who were born and raised in America, we don't know American history. And that makes total sense.
Total sense. Total, especially in the world that we're living in, because everything is, you know, they have Orwellian ease. They have changed everything. And in 1984, if you don't know about that book, you need to read it by George Orwell. They're changing the history daily because what? It's not written down. That's why you should have paper books too, because they can change electronic stuff all the time. And then you look it up and you think that that is exactly how it was originally done, but you don't know because you can't trace it. So anyway, I'm just going to say that.
I'll say also they changed the books too. So if you're relying on the educational system and you're not actively teaching your next generation on your own, they still can trick you because again, they're constantly changing history.
The only issue with that is that it takes a little bit longer to get a book printed and to the person that's going to read it than it would just to change it online. But you're right, because we know about the textbooks in the Texas public schools changed slaves to workers. So they said that people that were in slaves, or what they call slaves, chattel slaves. No, not indentured servants. No,
they said they migrated
workers.
over here.
Yes, they did.
And they said they migrated. They said no.
They migrated.
We migrated over here.
We migrated. Yes. So you get the point. So let me just go ahead and break it down. Let me give you what the date was. September 17th, 1787. So that's when the Constitution was signed on September 17th. Now, for those in the viewing audience, does that date ring a bell anywhere? And this might help us remember. September 17th, 1787. September 17th. Okay, well, I'm not going to tell you if you don't know. You should know this. This is our history. Okay, so moving on. Now, I'm laying this as a base because...
Hold on. Sister Damon's asked this perplexed look on her face.
Okay.
I don't want to call you out and not just blow you out the water, but now this one, I just want to set this record straight for the listening audience. I know that date.
Okay.
I think well, not the 1787 part, but September 17th.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's why you kept saying September.
Oh, okay.
17th.
Yes, I thought you were going to say it.
You said for the listening audience, I'm not going to ruin the surprise.
Okay, well, we'll ruin it at the end, maybe. Or you can look it up. But nonetheless, let's just go ahead and then you see that it was signed, what? It was signed 11 years after the Declaration of Independence. So they didn't declare the independence and boom, bam, there was a constitution. It was a time period between declaring the independence and writing this document. So, we'll look at the parallels, if you will, we'll look at the parallels with the Nation of Islam. Okay, so next, we have the preamble of the Constitution. Now, so what is a preamble? A preamble is just an introductory statement, and it's part of the Constitution or a statute that usually states the reason for or the intent for the law. So the preamble to the Constitution, the reason I'm bringing this up, because in our document, Sister Deborah, do you have the copy with you of our of the Muhammad Mas provisional? If you can hold that up. Yes. Yeah. We're going to talk about our preamble because we're dealing with very good. See, because I just moved, I can't find mine. So I have a photocopy of it, but everyone should get a copy of this document, powerful document. And that's the Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution. So with that being said, so we know what a preamble is. It's an introductory statement, right? And it's an introductory fact, they say, or a circumstance, especially one indicating what is to follow. Now, kind of like with Muslims, we begin speech with saying, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. It's an introductory statement that is supposed to, everything that's supposed to come after that is supposed to be, something that is true, is in the name of God, and is supposed to be based upon, the revelation of God. Now, so let's look at the preamble to the United States Constitution. And I know that many of us that are my age and maybe younger can sing the preamble to the Constitution from Schoolhouse Rock. That's how I learned it. And that's how I passed my test on the preamble to the Constitution. But it states, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Beautiful words, beautiful words. Now, I asked Sister Gabrielle to cue up a statement by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Did you get a chance to cue it up yet? Yes, no, maybe no?
No, ma'am. I'm going to work on it, but just know that everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So I'm just... Understood.
Well, I tell you what, while you're looking for it, share with us. And you can find this video on the Supreme Muslim Educational Center. This is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when he spoke at the NCOBRA conference, and he was dealing with these beautiful words by the framers of the Constitution of the United States, and what he, said about these words. So, Sister Gabrielle, could you just kind of share with us?
Oh, I was looking up the stuff. I apologize. Share with you the gist of what he was saying?
The gist of what he was saying.
Okay, so the gist of what he was saying, and I'm still going to play the clip afterward, is that all these beautiful words and all these rights that the founding fathers who wrote and framed the Constitution, they really only meant that for a small segment of the population, which included white men of a certain heritage or a certain background in a certain class. And so even for those who already know that they really meant for white people, because obviously you had the Africans that were brought over to be enslaved workers, but then also they didn't consider all white men either, and they didn't consider women, even white women. So women were not included in those people who had those inalienable rights, because they really only considered those rights for what they consider a man. And there was a criteria for what a man was considered back then.
Okay, all right. Well, as you're looking that up, that is, and he said that they could not, and I don't know where the sound is coming from. I think that's you, Sister Gabrielle. But he said that they could not, and I'm paraphrasing, really manifest the beautiful words that are in the Constitution because of the fact that they did not consider anybody other than white people, and that because of the fact that they were racist, so, and misogynistic. And so it was impossible for them to make those words, true. And so what I want to do is that I really would like to hear the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, so that way we don't have to kind of say about what he said, but we can actually say listen to what he did say. So while you're looking that up, what I want to do is just once again remind us that our topic today is government and educated citizenry keeps tyranny at bay. So once again, the question becomes, why are we talking about this at this time? Why are we talking about an educated citizenry keeping tyranny at bay? And there are obvious reasons, and then there are not so obvious reasons why we're discussing this at this time. And like I shared with you earlier, they're rolling back the Constitution that they say governs this country. And they're rolling back these amendments to the point that there will be no, you would have no rights. You would actually have no rights. And so if you don't know the Constitution anyway, it'll be easy for someone to take your rights. Okay?
I'm about to say, but quiet is kept and loud as it is, we don't have none anyway.
Quiet is kept and loud as it is. You're right. You're right. But the thing about it is that our rights as human beings, just as human beings, are being encroached upon daily. And the government is trying to take over our very persons. When somebody is trying to take over your body, now, of course, that was chattel slavery, but we're coming back. It's just, they're just taking a different approach to the same issue. They're saying you don't have rights over your own person. And that's deep to me. Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure it was the Cobra lecture, or it wasn't the rally, the Facebook rally lecture?
I think it was the Cobra rally, but I know the clip, and I think that's the one where he says Nina. He talks about Nina.
Yes,
is that in? Yeah, that's it. That's in Cobra. Okay, so so the other thing, so however one would if you don't have the requisite knowledge, there are 4 requisite knowledges that you need in order to fight against tyranny anywhere, despotism anywhere. And those 4 requisite knowledges are: 1, you need to have a knowledge of yourself. That's the first requisite knowledge that we must have, is knowledge of self. 2, we must have the requisite knowledge of God. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he teaches us this. These are the things that is in the Supreme Wisdom lessons. This is part of the answer that he gives to a question. No, this is part of a note that was added into an instruction that Master Fard Muhammad was given to the Muslims of Michigan #1, the laborers. So you must have a knowledge of self, a knowledge of God. You must have a knowledge of the time that we're living in and what must be done. And you must have a knowledge of the enemy to self and to God. And so if you know that, if you have those 4 requisite knowledges, then you can't or you shouldn't be fooled. And so that's what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes to give us, these 4 requisite knowledges. And that's what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is, in my opinion, equipping us with, these 4 requisite knowledges. So that way we can at least defend ourselves from the wiles of Satan. Now, Sister Gabrielle, did you find it?
No, ma'am. I'm looking on the clip that I think it is actually on. I think that was
Okay, no problem.
That's what the specific clip you're looking for.
Okay. So, Sister Demoiselle, do you have anything that you'd like to share before we move into the meat and the potatoes of what we're going to discuss today?
Well, you know me, I really like to always hear from the minister or the messenger, because that's where, we kind of start from what they say and branch out. So I prefer to hear from what he has to say first.
Okay, well,
okay.
Praise be to Allah.
I found, I'm going to share this clip that I found, that if it's not the exact one you're looking for, because he's consistent, he will continue to say some of the same things until we get it.
That's fine.
I bear witness to him who originated the heavens and the earth, who is the originator of all life, and his greatest desire is to rid the earth of unbelief and hatred and lying and deceit, and to make the human family human again, and to take out of us the mind and spirit of the beast of Revelations. The mark of the beast is in our hands, and the mark of the beast is in our forehead. We are not thinking like the divine creator created us to think in our best selves. We have degenerated into something that is subhuman. And the actions that are going on throughout our planet, among all the peoples of our planet, says that Satan has nearly conquered the whole of humanity. I thank Allah for all of the prophets who suffered to bring truth in a world that seems to love falsehood. I thank Allah for Moses and Abraham I thank him for Jesus and Muhammad. Peace be upon these worthy servants of God. I thank him for each and every one of you who would like to see yourselves in your divine garments. How could the Son be a creature of the Creator and it is not divine? How could the least of his creatures not be divine, because each of his creatures reflect the Creator? How could you and I and we and us, who are made in his image and after his likeness, be so far removed from the divinity of our nature? Some of us are even so afraid to admit that the human being can be divine. This is not just for people of high status and standing. The least human being is greater than the sun. I'm going to say it again. The least human being is greater than the sun. The sun can only do what God created it to do. Every creature that we study, contained in it is the treasure of what God's purpose was for its creation. He's not a mindless creator. And we would have to be mindful to feed on the wisdom in the least of his creation. This is why the psalmist says, "Ye are all God's children of the Most High God." I often wondered as a student of my wonderful teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I often wondered why we could speak such noble words and live a life so far removed from the noble words that we speak. I looked at the Constitution of the United States of America, supposedly composed by the founding fathers, many of them, of this great nation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equally. My God, what beautiful words. But the same creators of that word They were inspired by the God of justice. But they could not make those words bond. That we all should enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to that end, governments are formed with the consent of the governed. And here we are today. Some of us could not come out tonight because they did not wish to be censured by those who presently have power to censure. But that power is gradually being taken from you. And I am so grateful to God that He made me an instrument to bring that end of your wicked system of injustice. Oh, wait a minute, Farrakhan. How dare you say that you are the one? God has said it. And if you study your scripture and study my work, you'll find that there's not another human being on this earth that speaks like Farrakhan, that challenges like Farrakhan, that has the wisdom of Farrakhan, even to the Pope of Rome, and all those that you think are wise. The wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. The founding fathers couldn't make those words live. They were slaveholders. They were misogynists. All these wonderful rights could not be given to white women, much less black men and women, Native American men and women, Chinese or Japanese human beings. Jesus wanted to produce a special communion. His words are difficult to live if you have a racist mentality. His words are difficult to live if your heart is darkened with hatred, envy, and jealousy. The story of Cain and Abel is a very beautiful story for us to reflect on, because that happened in the genesis of a new people on our planet. And we are now living, thank you, in the genesis of a new beginning for us and for the world.
That was it, Sister Gabrielle. You hit the nail on the head. That was the video. I knew you could find it. That was the video I was looking for. That was the video. Praise be to Allah. You heard it from the man of God on the scene, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and who could say it better? Certainly not myself. Well, while she was letting that play, I did find this, and I want to share this with you all. I'm going to share my screen, as I just want to show you what, as he was saying, of course, you know, that was the Facebook rally. They were, they had taken the minister's channels down, his Facebook, his Twitter, and whatnot. And so that was that. And I want to show you exactly what happened. So I'm going to share my screen right quick, and then we can get off into our conversation and go a little bit deeper. So let's see, I think I need to start here. All right. So look here, this is my channel, or the channel dashboard. And of course you can see that, you know, we're over the 1,000 mark. But right here in important notifications, it says here, community guideline removal. Your content, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, July 4th, 2020, was removed due to a violation of our community guidelines. And it goes on to say that we realize you may not have known this was a violation. So you did not get a warning or a strike. How does that sound? You couldn't really give me a warning and a strike. So you just say, I may have not known. Okay, so then it goes on to say, I see you, Sister Demoiselle, you ready to comment, but it says, if you disagree, appeal here. Okay, so I did appeal, and I tried to explain to you all what I said. I went back to look and see if I could find my appeal. But interestingly enough, they don't record your appeal. So, because we need to start keeping up with this information. So anyway, it says here, appeal rejected, strike removed. It says, thank you for your appeal. After review, we've determined your content, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, on the topic of coronavirus vaccines, July 4th, 2020, does violate our community guidelines. It won't be on your YouTube channel, but we've removed the strike on your account. And I'm trying to see if I can find the other part of it, where it says after further review. As a matter of fact, that's on my email, so I'm not going to pull the email up, but it says after further review that that the content wasn't what they thought it was. So he did not say anything that was medical misinformation. Once again, abridging our rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. So anyway, so the last one is that, and I told you that we made the 1,000 mark. And so they said monetization was not approved. So I want to click on over here so you all can see what they had to say about that, which I thought that was pretty interesting. Let me see. And I want you to see what they say. And can you see this? It says channel monetization. Has that come up yet for you? Yes? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It says your channel was not accepted for monetization. After reviewing your application, we found that your channel does not follow YouTube's monetization policies. What should you do next? It says, review our feedback. Our reviewers found that your channel contains the following. Are you ready for this? Harmful content. Content that focuses on controversial issues and that is harmful to the viewers. It says it right there. See the little red circle with the exclamation mark? Our content is harmful to viewers. Can you believe that? And so then
Yes.
Check out what it says that we should. Yes, of course you can. We just listened to the minister speaking about the Facebook rally. That's why Knowledge is power. When you know certain things, you can't, you have something to fight with. So it says, now this is what we can do. Edit your channel and reapply for monetization. It says make changes to your channel based upon our feedback. Changes can include editing or deleting videos and updating video details. You can reapply starting September 1st, 2021, as long as your channel meets the subscribers and the public watch hour requirements. Now, the subscribers, as you see, is 1,000 subscribers. We've met that. The watch hours required was 4,000, but we're at 12,300. Met that. But our content is harmful. Well, all I have to say, I'm not removing it, period. We don't need your money. Thank you. We don't need, Allah has another way. So if he wants this thing to move forward, us helping with the new educational paradigm, it'll happen. But we don't need anything from you, YouTube. And if you don't like what we're saying, then we'll just take our content and move somewhere else. So that's all I have to say about that. So with that being said, you're looking at an angry Black woman. I think I've been re-stimulated by all this foolishness. So with that being said, that's, yeah, I feel like if I were a citizen of the United States, that my rights were violated, but I'm actually a citizen of the Nation of Islam. Praise be to Allah. So that's where we're going right now. So any comments before we move off into the meat and the potatoes?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting when they said you have to strike because your videos deal with controversial issues. It's like, so who's allowed to deal with controversy? Who are the ones that are allowed to deal with controversial issues? Because that's the thing about controversy, is that, you know, they actually do exist, and usually if there's a controversy, people are trying to find solutions to it, or there's people that job is to deal with solutions. And so say for instance, let's say for instance, global warming, that's a controversy because it is a problem, and problems need solutions. And so for them to say you're not allowed to deal with controversy, it's like, well, who is? Because if it's controversial, that means it's problematic. I just thought that was interesting. Very you know, just those kind of their reasoning is just like totally BS.
And it can be that way.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying once you really came back with a, you know, you refuted their claim, because they weren't specific in what this, you know, controversy is to, and being harmful. Because you know, at least with the videos or the minister that they were saying, at least they said about medical misinformation, they were specific in what they had an issue with. But somehow now it's just, you know,
right, it's
harmful to the public viewing audience.
And harmful to what? People's feelings. If it's YouTube's job to, like, you know, protect people's feelings now, and is that we live in a world where you're not allowed to hurt people's feelings, and if you hurt people's feelings, you will be fined and arrested and, you know, persecuted, because, you know, we hurt each other's feelings all of the time, but, you know, that's on us, you know, the person who did the hurt, the person who's hurt, to have a dialogue. And that's exactly what, you know, this platform is that, you know, we have our opinions and we leave chat open for people who come across our videos to state their opinions and how they feel, whether they, you know, agree. And we've had cases where people have said that they felt, you know, offended by something we said, and it's been cleared up, and, you know, and it moved on. But like for YouTube to say they're the authority on how you are to conduct relationships between, you know, people, it's like, again, they're overstepping their bounds. Nobody's calling them out, but people are just, you know, laying down and letting them tell them what they can do.
That's right. That's why I wanted to be transparent about this. I mean, we got to stand for something. Like the saying said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so it's just not happening. Not on my watch. It's just not happening. And so with that being the case, hey, is what it is. There was life before YouTube. There'll be life after YouTube. I mean, I was in the Nation of Islam when we were sending things through snail mail, when we were having telephone hookups. So, I'm good. I'm good. But the point is that this is infringing and encroaching upon people's, personal rights, their personal sovereignty. And it's really an issue. We got to deal with this. We got to talk about this. And so with that being the case, anybody else have anything else that they'd like to share before we move on? And of course, I was trying to keep it simple for the people who are melting over there in Louisiana.
Please do. I never said don't do it.
Don't, huh? But we hadn't even gotten into the meat and potatoes. How do you just stop at the appetizer of the dinner like that? Okay, well,
click the button and
not quite. Well, it is to be continued, but we have to set it up first before we can continue. So, With that being said, it's all about education. It's all about education, you all. So, tyranny. We are being governed, if we know it or not, by tyrants, by despots. We must fight. The real power is with the people. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was reading the preamble. He wasn't reading because he had a good education. So he was reciting the Declaration of Independence for the United States government. And that's something that I would like to bring up because I want us to take a look at this Declaration of Independence. And so let me bring it up for us because it's very key. These are things that we must know. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share it right quick. Here we go. And let's take a look at it. Now, this is a transcript. Now, this was in Congress on July 4th, 1776. The ministers, oh my God, he is such, Gabrielle says he's an intelligent man. He is an inspired man. For him to speak on the day, very similar to Frederick Douglass, what he did when he gave a speech on July 4th. And he really was a spoof, if you will, at the Declaration of Independence for the United States government. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, spoof is maybe not the right word, but it was an in their face, representation of their hypocrisy. And so, you're declaring independence, but you have people enslaved at the same time. And so Frederick Douglass did a wonderful job of his speech on July 4th. But anyway, with that being said, is this too small for you all? Okay. Is it clear? Too small, clear?
It's clear.
Okay. So I'm not going to go into everything.
I can see it, but I will have to squint and get really close to the monitor to see it.
No problemo. How about that? Is that better? School, you have to make accommodations, and this is one for those who are visually impaired.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So this is, we need to look at this. So I'm going to get, if you don't mind, Sister Gabrielle, if you could read for us. Yes. This, just read, because it's deep.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on to your seats because all of this talking makes me even more hot. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. Good job, Minister. That whenever I was like, good job for him to just be able to spit that off the top of his head like at 80 something years old. And I'm not going to go there. But as I digress, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience hath shewn that mankind are most disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reproduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future. Scroll down. Scroll up. For their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operations, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless these people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them, inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolution to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for their tenure of their office and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislator. He has affected to render the military independent. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretend legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, for punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefit of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretend offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it as at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule to these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our legislators and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, dissolution, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends, become the executioner of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrection among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these operations, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeat petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in our attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarranted jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which have inevitably interrupted our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good peoples of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right out ought to be free and independent states. They are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each of our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Thank you. Okay, so we see now that the Declaration of Independence was not just those statements. So you, just by reading this, you can see why they're trying to dissolve this document. What if people actually held this document, to be the law of the land. You see? So you can see why.
So what is this actual document?
This is the Declaration of Independence.
So, like the minister say, let us judge them by their own definition. So everything that they have accused Britain of at this present day and moment in time, everything on that list, they are now doing.
Everything and more.
And they called them tyrants because
and
of what they were
despots.
doing. Yes, because of what they were doing to them. So does that now mean, since they are doing the very same thing that they accused another of doing, are they now tyrants?
The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says separation is the best and only
guess what?
solution to our problem.
And guess what? In that declaration, don't move it right here. They said, where is it? And
It's
we
right
must
here.
therefore acquiesce in the necessity. Wait, hold on, you're moving it. Where is it?
I did. I'm finished. Right here. Can you see it?
Okay. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our what? Separation.
Separation with a capital S.
Capital S. And hold them as we hold the rest of mankind enemies in war, in peace, friends. So they said it out of their own mouth. So why is it such an
Go ahead and
issue?
read this one again. In every stage of these oppressions.
Yes, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Okay.
That's what
A
they
tyrant.
say. A tyrant.
And this is the Declaration of Independence. And we're not going to go past 2 hours. So that's just like 20 minutes from now. We're going to have a part 2 on this because now we've established a baseline. Our baseline is that we have to know what this Constitution says. What were you about to say, Sister Demoiselle?
Well, I was going to say we keep talking about tyrants and tyranny, but we need to know what that is.
Did you find it?
Call you want it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, tyranny is
okay.
It's a couple of different a cruel and oppressive government or rule, a nation under cruel and oppressive government, or cruel, unreasonable, or arbitrary use of power or control. Tyranny.
Read it one more time, just one more time.
Cruel and oppressive government or rule, a nation under cruel and oppressive government, or cruel, unreasonable, or arbitrary use of power or control. Tyranny. Tyranny.
Interesting in here, it said, let me see if I can find in this Declaration of Independence. It says here, I'll pull it back up so everybody can see it. And I just want to make these things plain so that way as we move forward, because we're talking about establishing a government of peace, where we all can live in peace together. So it says here, I'm going to start up here. Well, it's a very long sentence, so I guess I have to start way at the beginning. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes, this is where I'm going, destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for the light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown. Now listen to this. All experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing, you hear me, the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object emphasis, designed to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. But the thing about it is that it says that experience has shown that we are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms of government to which they are accustomed. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it like this. He said that freedom is a curious thing, a strange thing, he said, to a Negro. So it is more familiar for us to be oppressed than to be free. If you have never seen freedom, how do you know what it is? So with that being said.
But he already said, well, first of all, by the way we treat each other, we can accomplish freedom. However, he said, but if we don't, we're going to forever be Negroes trying to struggle with concepts that we don't understand. And freedom is a concept that a Negro cannot understand.
Don't understand.
Can't understand.
So what is, as we said at the beginning, the remedy for this? An educated citizenry keeps tyranny at bay. Just like knowing this, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's all we know of the Constitution. But when you start enumerating all of these violations of the rights of the colonies, then you're like, well, wait a minute. Look at what you're doing to me.
Right. But this
but
is what
the minister said. I was going to say, the minister said that most wicked tyrants always think of themselves as good people. So they don't even see themselves as tyrants.
Which is that's a good segue into I was having a conversation, I believe, with Sister Deborah either today or yesterday, but earlier, that what you really have to do, because somebody might come across this podcast and it's like, what are they talking about? We're not free. We are free in America. And not to offend people, but just take a look at the things they allow you to be free with. And so, number one, in America, they allow you to be sexually liberated, but that's about it. Yeah. You can't build a bridge with sex. You can't grow food with sex. You can't drive sex. you have a sex drive, but you can't drive it like a car. Like what I'm saying is that they allow you to be free of what you eat. Then they say you have the freedom to choose what to eat, but then they most of the time offer you and suggest you mostly to eat the wrong things. They say you have a freedom of religion, but they're constantly attacking and tearing down religion, so you won't necessarily see this as a good thing. And same thing with you have a right to you can watch whatever you want, you can listen to whatever you want, but what are the things that are being promoted the most? But one thing that you can't do in America is grow your own food. You can't. So the things that they said, but you're not allowed to give people health advice. It doesn't even disagree with modern medicine or popular medicine. It's just a simple supplement to what's already out there, but you can't even suggest things that are not being promoted. So on the same hand, where like they were saying, we have harmful speech on these things, and I was like, about the most harmful thing it might hurt is somebody's feelings, and a lot of times their feelings are hurt because of misunderstanding, not because that's the intention to hurt feelings. And so the thing is that yes, you have freedom to really waste your time. Basically, you have freedom to be non-productive, but the moment you actually start to listen to productive things, talk about productive things, eat productive things, plan productive things, then next thing you know, you're labeled as an extremist, you're labeled as a hater, you're labeled as a nut, you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. And so I was having this conversation with a sister who called me today. She was asking me advice about what should she do about the vaccines and what information that she has to tell them. Nonetheless, later in the conversation, we were talking about at the beginning of the panorama.
The panorama.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Color panorama.
Right. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of the panorama, the CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, she had a press conference where she was saying that we are changing our policy, and we're updating our algorithm, because we're going to mostly let the algorithm do the job of taking on these videos. But if you post any videos that disagree with the CDC on health information,
no, not the CDC.
Well, the World Health Organization. Okay, the World Health
Yes, because they told me that.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that's the thing is that, and you saw at the beginning of the pandemic, anytime you looked up any health related information, they would always have this embedded link to the CDC's website.
They still do.
And so because if you're listening to something, they want to make sure you have their opinion on it. So people in the beginning were getting their videos taken down if they told you in order to help fight off infection, you should drink a glass of orange juice a day. They were taking you down if you suggested that orange juice was a way to have better health. If you were suggesting that, in order to kick a cold fast or to kick a flu fast, that you should drink, I don't know, lemonade, not lemonade, but lemon juice, and cayenne pepper. If you were saying that was a health benefit or some type of health booster, they were taking your videos down. So again, you're free to say that, take the jab, right? You're free to say legalize marijuana, but you're not free to say orange juice is an immune booster.
Not free.
So what are you really free to do? You're free to do what I say you can do. That's like being in your parents' house. They say you can do anything within this is the list of things that I say you can do. You can do one of these things. If it's off that list, you can't do it. So you're free to pick anything that I offer you. But if I didn't offer to you, you can't have it.
Sister Demoiselle, I know you were trying to jump in right there.
Oh, no, actually my things froze for a few minutes. So kind of missed a lot of what it was saying.
Okay. Well,
Also,
this is where we. Yes, ma'am.
I think also, I don't even think you're free to keep your children at home. Like if you have your child at home and you don't explain to them and give them a reason, a reason why you're keeping your child at home, they will like charge you with some type of offense if you don't put your child in school.
Delinquency to mine.
Yeah, contributed to
That's right.
delinquency of mine. So it's like, it's my child. The child popped out of my body, and I can't keep it at my house that I pay the bills on. No, because we need to know at all times what's going on with your child.
At all times.
Mm-hmm. Because that child might rise up and overthrow me. So I can't just have, that's why.
Right.
Nope.
So we need to know what you're doing at all times. Oh, so before we go on, we have a comment from a Mr. Peter Ford, and he asked, is there a way a white man can help your movement? Much respect.
Absolutely. I just want to say, you can go because I had some ice in my mouth trying to cool down. So I'm not going to say anything else.
You said absolutely. Go ahead. You said absolutely.
No, I have ice in my mouth, so I will pass. I'll come back around me.
Okay. Mr. Ford, that's an interesting question. We were told by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that there will come a time when the Muslim sons, are also known as Masons, would help us. I don't know if you're a Mason or a Muslim son or Muslim Shriner and that you want to help us. But the Holy Quran, talks about that if an unrighteous, well, let me see how I can make this in the best of manner. Whatever you do of good, you will be rewarded for it. So whatever you do of good, you'll be rewarded for it. But just know that we really don't have any strings attached. There's, we can't be persuaded. We can't be, cajoled. So anything you do of good it only adds to the good of your own deeds. So yes, there is something that white people can do.
Right. But I would say the thing that I heard the minister say. If you know the truth, if you are a person that knows the truth, speak it. And so as far as our cause, this is our podcast, no doubt. So one thing that you can definitely do to help our podcast is click that like button and subscribe. That's number one.
No
and then
doubt.
Also, you can share this video with those of that you think will enjoy the content, and even those that you might not think they will enjoy the content, but that you think they need to hear this content. So share the information and join the conversation. That's one. Now, two, if you're talking about the Nation of Islam, you can visit the Nation of Islam's website and get their contact on NOI.org. And if you want to help the Nation of Islam, but that's what you can do is if you know the truth, speak it. So you can start, everybody can start by educating themselves and learning more information. And then once you have educated yourself, teach what you know to others. There's no agenda that we're pushing. Well, we are pushing an agenda. It's an agenda of education. That's what this is, the new education podcast. So that's what we're in the business of educating people and enlightening people to the truth. And so that's what you can do. Each one teach one. And it doesn't matter if you're white, black, blue, or purple, or anything in between.
Exactly. So thank you for commenting. I mean, we really appreciate it. Yes, And Sister Gabrielle said it, that's the most important thing, because if you know the truth, then the onus is on you to tell the truth. And so that's what we would, really suggest that you do, and listen with an open mind. As she said, we don't have a quote unquote an agenda. We're really just trying to get people to open up their minds and, really just look at things from a different perspective than maybe what we were taught in school. So what I want to do is end off our podcast where I would like for us to pick up next week. Now we're going to this book, Sister Demoiselle, if you would hold it up just for a few minutes. And this is the Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution. And Sister Gabrielle, while she's doing that, please look up the word provisional constitution, because next week we're going to go in. Thank you, Sister Demoiselle. Next week we're going to go into part 2 of this, and we're going to take a look at some governments that came to power, and they came to power. It was a quote unquote bloodless coup. And one of the first things that these new governments that were formed did is that they educated the citizenry, because that is the way that you keep tyranny or tyranny at bay. Did you find it yet, Sister Gabrielle? Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution. So a provisional constitution is what, Sister Gabrielle?
A provisional constitution is a complete term, so it's not.
Yeah, it is.
The constitution, but so that's a complete term. Provisional constitution or interim constitution or transitional constitution is a constitution intended to serve during a transitional period until a permanent constitution is adopted. That's it. And so they have a list of countries that have a provisional constitution. I'm not going to go over that. It's a constitution, temporary constitution until one permanent is adopted.
And that's what I want us to understand, because sometimes we think that I'm not going to assume anything, as you said, but as Sister Gabrielle pointed out, it's a complete term. So we may think provisional is a term and constitution is a term, but no, provisional constitution is a complete term. And it is a temporary constitution or a transitional constitution from one form of government to a permanent form of government. So when we say Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution, what we're talking about is a transitional constitution for the establishment of what is to come. And we, believe that a government of peace, and it's crazy, of a world as we live in, we believe that peace is possible. And we believe that a government of peace can be established wherein we can all live in peace together. So what I would like for you to do, Sister Demoiselle, if you would, is to read the foreword to the Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution. And this foreword is also the preamble. And remember, we said that a preamble is an introductory statement, right? And this preamble is an introductory part of a constitution or a statute that usually states the reason for the intent of the law. Okay, Sister Demoiselle.
Okay, so it starts on page 2 of the Muhammad Mas Provisional Constitution, and it states, so whatever you are given is but a provision of this world's life, and that which Allah has is better and more lasting for those who believe and rely on their Lord, and those who shun the great sins and indecencies, and whenever they are angry, they forgive, and those who respond to their Lord and keep up prayer, and whose affairs are decided by counsel among themselves, and who spend out of what we have given them, and those who, when great wrong afflicts them, defend themselves. Holy Quran 42, 36 through 39.
Thank you. Now, I'm just going to read the statement that Minister Ava says here. She says, these verses from the Holy Quran form an impassioned preamble to our provisional constitution from the Lord of the worlds. Yes, I thought about doing that. Just hold it up there for a second. From the Lord of the worlds himself, developed in its eloquent form on the message of the great Mahdi, Master Fard Muhammad, and ultimately brought into fruition by our beloved brother Louis Farrakhan Muhammad. This document was ratified on March 29, 1986 by the National Council of Laborers in Chicago, Illinois. Now, this is our preamble to our Constitution. So we believe that the Holy Quran was a direct communication from the Lord of the worlds to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So as beautiful as the words are in the preamble of the Constitution of the United States of America, as eloquent as they are, people are flawed. So whatever proceeds from imperfection is going to produce imperfection. And so we believe that Allah God is the supreme being, he is the best knower, and that we believe that Allah perfected his make in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Okay, so we need to look at this preamble. We need to study this preamble. This is very, like she said, eloquent. It's impassioned. And so anyway, this is the preamble to the Constitution of the Muhammad Mosque. Now, where we want to end off is that I'm not going to read everything in it, but I want to skip down to what we were saying about government and how an educated citizenry keeps tyranny at bay. And so for those who fall under this Constitution, this is what I have to tell us. Now, from the preamble of the Muhammad Mosque Provisional Constitution written by the preamble, or the foreword, was written by Minister Ava, Dr. Ava, student minister, Dr. Ava Muhammad. This is really going to be the base of our next podcast. And it states, in part, it is the duty of the Muslim to acquire knowledge, and natural law mandates that the man or woman who refuses to study becomes a detriment to freedom, justice, and equality for us all. Minister Farrakhan, she goes on to say, has taught us ever so carefully that the root of man's sin is polytheism. Ignorance is a powerful and consistent ally of polytheism, and for that reason, he or she who deliberately rejects knowledge is a mortal enemy of the nation of Islam. So that just really just says there really is no excuse for us not to acquire knowledge. And of course, after knowledge comes understanding, but we should seek after knowledge. And this is the thing that allows us to keep tyranny at bay. Because if you don't acquire knowledge, just like the people in Liberia, and this is going back to having, studying history, is most attractive, is best qualified and most attracted to reward our research. And there were Black people that were held in chattel slavery in America that were given the opportunity to go back to Africa, to repatriate back to Africa. However, what happened is that these Black people went back and established a country named Monrovia after President Monroe. And they have a flag, because every sovereign nation must have a flag. The flag looks just like the United States flag, save the stars. They went and reestablished a government that looked like the one they left, just with Black people. How did I hear it say? Minister Ava said that we are Black. She said that we are Caucasians and melanated skin. I love the way that she puts stuff. Love it. So, in other words, we took the mind of our open enemy back with us to Africa. So it's because they didn't have a knowledge of what? Themselves. They didn't have a knowledge of God, because I guarantee you it's a Christian nation, a so-called Christian nation. They didn't have a knowledge of the time and what must be done. Just imagine if they had the knowledge of self and knowledge of God, and then they went back in that time. History may have been totally different. What if they started coming to get us, or the ones that were left? If they would have understood that, what was really going on. And they didn't understand the enemy to God or the enemy to themselves, because they went back and reproduced his mind in a different place. So with that being said, what we want to do is that we want to acquire knowledge that benefits ourselves. And that knowledge that benefits ourselves will ultimately lead to us having a full and a complete freedom. And as we close out, and we'll pick up next time on the whole concept of how do you establish, quote unquote, to be recognized by other governments, an independent and sovereign country. And the question is, does the Nation of Islam have what it takes to be recognized by the United Nations and or other governments as a sovereign nation? And we'll show you point by point what we show you. But in this Constitution, we have articles, and I'm going to leave off here. So Article 3 of the Muhammad Mosque Provisional Constitution is titled, What the Muslims Want. Number one, we want freedom, as all people do. We want a full and complete freedom. Number two, we want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally, regardless. And this is what a lot of people are afraid of. If y'all Muslims get a country, y'all gonna oppress everybody. Nope. We want equal justice. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, and or color. Number three, we want equal opportunity. We're not asking for affirmative action. We're asking for an equal opportunity. And if you go on our YouTube page in the community section, you'll see this meme. And I think I'll take time to show it to you before we leave, but this meme, and it really exemplifies about how people say that we have equality here. We want an equal membership in society with the best of society. We don't want equal membership in society with, with the worst of society. We want it with the best of society. I'll leave it like that. Okay. And lastly, and this is my last point, and then we're going to bring it on home, you all. I know you're over there in the hot box, like, what was her name on Django? Yeah. She spoke German.
German.
She was in the hot box. Okay, so anyway, so what was her name? Anyway,
Hildy.
her.
Yeah.
Hildegard, or whatever her name was.
Yeah,
Hildy.
and when they pulled her behind up that hot box, you saw what condition she was in. She couldn't stand up.
She should have got
So
an
just know,
Emmy.
just know.
Washington.
That's how I know
Yes.
as soon as I sign off, somebody's gonna have to pick me up. Have to put some holy water on me or something, because this heat is the devil.
It is. I can see it. I can see it all on your face. Okay. So lastly, little levity didn't hurt anything, but we're going to end off with this. And this is an asterisk here. This is number 9 of Article 3 of what the Muslims want. We want equal education. Okay. Equal doesn't mean the same. It just means, well, it does mean the same in some cases, but it doesn't mean you could have on one side of the equation 3 + 4, and you can have the number 7 on the other side. So it doesn't have to be the same numbers, but it has to be equal, right? And so, but separate schools up to the age up to 16 for boys and 18 for girls, on the condition that the girls be sent to women colleges and universities. We want all Black children educated, taught, and trained by their own teachers. Under such schooling, we believe that we will be made a better nation of people. This is where we're going. The United States government should provide free all necessary textbooks and equipment, school and college buildings. This is not affirmative action. This is being given what we are owed.
That's
The
called
Muslim
reparations.
shall be left.
That's called reparations, but let's not act like
Reparatory justice.
But no, call it what it is, reparations. Because before you leave on that point, when after the Germans lost World War I, they were required to pay the war cost of all people involved, and that's how their economy ended up tanking. But I'm not gonna go down that. But the point is that the Germans had to pay reparations for World War I. The Japanese were paid reparations for the devastation during World War II. And so reparations, and the Native Americans were given reparations, and that's how they got the reservations and things like that. So everybody is okay with reparations as long as it's not people that look like us. And so reparations is not a thing that only Black people are complaining about. Reparations is the thing that only Black people have not received.
And what's so crazy? Check this out. That that Haiti had to pay reparations to France for throwing the yoke of tyranny off of them. And what if the United States had to pay reparations to the crown? So anyway, that's just
they can't afford it, and that's the only reason that Black people in America have not been given reparations is because America can't afford it.
Because they would have to give us the country. But anyway, going on back to what I was saying. So the Muslim teacher shall be left free to teach and train their people in the way of righteousness, not hatred, righteousness and decency and self-respect. Wouldn't that be good? If you thought that Black people, were a drain on the economy, we should have we should be given, how many colleges does it take to educate 30 to 40 million people? We need enough colleges to educate 30 or 40. We need enough to educate all our people, because we can't think for one, we have to think for the whole. So the point is that this is what, if you want people who you say that are useless feeders, people who are not contributing to society, this is what you should do in order to remedy the problem. But the reality is that these people don't want to remedy the problem, because they know that one day justice will prevail, as one of their founding fathers said. They know that justice will not sleep, for what they have done to their once slaves. And closing it out, and this is where education and government meet. So in Article 4 of the Muhammad Mah's Provisional Constitution of What the Muslims Believe, point number 12 says, we believe that Allah God appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, Master W. Fard Muhammad, July 1930, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. We believe, and further and lastly, so that means the first part was the first part of what we believe. The second part is the second part of what we believe. So there are two parts of this particular point, and I want to really hone in on this, because we believe further and lastly that Allah is God, and besides him there is no God, and that he will bring about a universal government of peace wherein we all can live together in peace. And so the only way that can happen, one, is that God has to ordain it. That's why our foreword or our preamble to our Constitution starts with the words of God. And then the next thing is that we must have a proper education, so that way that those who are governed, that we won't reproduce this system that we're coming out of going forward. And that education is not just for Black people. That education is for all people, because we all need to know the truth. Yeah. So final comments. Sister Denzel, I saw things coming across the board, but I couldn't read them because it didn't pop up from.
I read it. But I was gonna say, I don't know if you mentioned that Article 3 of What the Muslims Want and Article 4 of What the Muslims Believe in our Provisional Constitution is on the back of every issue of the Final Call newspaper. That's so right. If you would like to read it and you don't have the Provisional Constitution, for those registered Muslims and anybody else who may be watching and want to know, What the Muslims Want and What the Muslims Believe are on the back of every edition of the Final Call newspaper.
The back inside cover. Yes. We had some comments that came across the board. Did you read those?
No, I did not. It's Mr. Peter Ford again.
Oh, okay. Mr. Peter Ford.
He said, who could be against these beautiful and noble goals? Thank you for the podcast. It was very interesting and insightful. Greetings from the Netherlands. He also says the NOI is one of the cleanest and empowering movements in the world. I got to know the organization by reading about Malcolm X. Always respected it, and after I learned more about it.
That's awesome. Thank you. From the Netherlands. The Netherlands represented at the Olympics this year. You all did that.
I was just about to say, I feel a little salty, but congratulations to the Netherlands. Y'all represented in the Olympics. Yeah. But but the question is,
she was for America.
But
love it or leave it.
the athletes for sure. But hey, look, don't get me started. But as far as who can be against it, that really is the question that we're trying to get to the root of, and the answer is a tyrant. Because all of these noble and lofty ideas put us on the same level. And somebody who is trying to be in control of everything does not want everybody to be on the same level. They want to be here, and they want everybody else to be here. And so
under the table.
There you go. I was just trying to get it.
That's too close.
I was just trying to get it in the frame. And so that's the thing, is that tyrants are against freedom, justice, and equality. and that is the thrust of this podcast. And so we just have to be able to recognize tyranny when we see it And then that can only come from, where Sister Deborah was saying, a proper education. Because in not an education as, we're not talking about education as teaching our children see, spot, run, in John and Sally. That's not the education that we're talking about. Because again, when you're talking about tyranny, you need an education that allows you to be able to think critically. Because a tyrant is not just going to right up the line. They're going to move in a serpentine like pattern, and they're going to try to create these different scenarios and balance things in their favors and create mass illusions to make you believe what they're doing is okay. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So it's being able to recognize things by critical thinking, being able to question things and weigh facts, in evidence against what you see, and not just people always trying to play on your emotions, but look at the facts.
That's it. That is it. I see that we have some more comments, and we really appreciate it. And if you didn't catch the first part, we were moving a little slowly in our discourse, but what we were trying to do is that we were trying to, one, get our technology together. Two, we were trying to really just unveil where we were going. And so next week, when we come back, what we're going to do is that we're going to really get into a little bit more of the Nation of Islam Provisional Constitution, the idea of separation. How does that look? And then, as I said, we need to look at whether or not the Nation of Islam can be, if we petitioned the United Nations or other nations to be recognized as a sovereign nation, could we do that? Do we have what it takes to be able to do that? And so next week we'll deal with that. And that'll be kind of how we land this particular plane. And I just want to say that the podcast is sponsored by the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center. And the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center has published a framework, a model curriculum framework. And in that framework, there are 9 schools of study. And one of the schools of study is called True and Proper History, the study of cycles of great nations and great people, because time is not linear, it's cyclical. So if we study the past, because time is cyclical, we can act in accord with what is about to happen. And so I said that to say that this particular dialogue or this discussion or this lesson would come under that school of study. And so these are the types of classroom discourses that we have in this, under this curriculum. This would be, it can be scaled up to college level discourse. It can be scaled down all the way to kindergarten students. And so we have to, as Sister Gabrielle said, think critically, because that's the only way that we could keep tyranny at bay, is that we have to begin to think critically. But you can only really think critically if you're basing what you're thinking on of truth, of what's real, what's, as we say in the Nation of Islam, actual facts. There are facts, and then there are interpretation of facts, as one of my sisters said. But then there are facts, and then there are facts that are actual. Because you can string together a whole bunch of information, and your conclusion can still be incorrect based upon facts being out of place. It's kind of like a misplaced modifier in a sentence. So with that being said, the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center is having a lesson planning, Supreme Wisdom Curriculum lesson planning workshop coming up on September 22nd, Sunday. It's a 4-hour workshop from 1 to 4. You can go to our website at www.supremewisdomeducationalcenter.org, and you can sign up for that website. If you're interested in getting the teacher's certificate, under the Supreme Wisdom curriculum, we also have a new class coming up for the Supreme Wisdom curriculum orientation class. And this class begins on September the 7th, I want to say, Monday, September the 7th. So if you're interested and you qualify, because it is based upon certain qualifications in that particular class, you can also find that on our website under our registration page. And lastly, for those who have completed the orientation course, we will be sending out information regarding signing up for the Supreme Wisdom Curriculum 100 course. And this course is an introductory course into the curriculum, and it takes you deeper, and we're going faster into this knowledge because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wants us to create a curriculum for the 21st century, a new educational paradigm for the 21st century, and that is universal in scope, but we have to get busy. We can't wait. So we have to just keep on moving forward and moving quickly, because this world has closed down, really. That's what this is all about. Anytime that they have to roll back the Constitution of the United States, you know, the rights that the citizens, the so-called citizens, have under this Constitution, that means that this system is closing down. So we have to, as it goes down, we have to shoot up. So with that being said, do you all have any closing comments before we leave our audience today? I know we had some more comments, Sister Demoiselle. I saw them coming across the chat. We had a couple of different people. I think you're not on your job, sis. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I see. I don't want to mispronounce this person's name. Spell it Kulsum. Akbar.
Okay.
Says, all praises due to Allah. Thank you so much for the enlightening and instructive presentation. And also, Peter Ford, this is to you, Sister Gabrielle. He says, ha ha. Thank you.
About the tyranny, when you say who would not want that?
No. Probably the Olympics.
I think I saw it. Well, maybe so, but I think I saw it come across the screen, and you could correct us, Brother Ford, that it came across the screen when you said, who would oppose such lofty or beautiful words such as this? And you said a tyrant.
That was way earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I saw it come across the board then, but who knows? Either one is applicable.
And he also goes on to say, I'm not sure, this is probably after talking about the tyrant. True, but evil will always fall in power.
Say it one more time, you froze up.
True, but evil will always fall eventually. And education is needed education indeed is the best way to empower.
Yes.
And
Mr. Ford said it wasn't about the Olympics.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Akbar says, critical thinking is a skill we must practice a lot. And
absolutely.
Peter Ford said, I will be listening again. Thanks again for the great talk.
Awesome, Mr. Ford. Thank you. And you can catch our previous episodes on this channel, Supreme Wisdom Educational Center. Please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We wanna get to 2,000. We're gonna get to the point that YouTube is gonna be saying, please let us monetize your channel so that we can advertise. You know, they're gonna be begging us.
Advertise the what you called it earlier. I'm gonna make up a name, the V scenes for it on our channel.
The what
That's
store?
I said they're gonna be advertising the V
Oh,
scenes.
no. The jab. That's what
The jab. That's what you call it. The jab. Yeah, they're gonna be
Oh,
advertising
the jab. Yeah. The
Let's
jab. Yeah.
advertise the jab on y'all channel.
Okay. Thank you for subscribing, Mr. Ford. And also, please do hit the like button, the thumbs up button, and also share. Oh, notifications. Make sure you hit that notification bell because we're back. Our technology might not be the best, but we're going to work on it, but we're back.
Right.
And so we look forward to seeing you all next Saturday in the 5 o'clock hour. It's a running joke that we never get on exactly at 5, but
and that's why you need your notifications because you never know when you're going to get on.
If you hit the notification, the live, when we go live, it'll notify you. So anyway, with that being said, we thank you all for tuning in, and we pray that you all have a wonderful week. And until we see you next time, Assalamu alaikum.